Hey, everybody, I'm David Bloom with Next TMT and the Next TMT Talks podcast. Here with our special guests, Lucas Bertrand, CEO and founder of Looper Insights, which tracks how well companies are basically showcasing and merchandising their stuff. And Patrick Craig's a longtime Fox Sports executive who's now busy, as we like to call him, being an international advisor of fortune and an investor and following closely all the ups and downs of the sports business. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of sports rights. 14 billion being spent by US major streamers. I think it's 30 billion worldwide on the big sports. I can't even imagine what they're spending on cricket in India. But that being said, lots of money going into it. Not everybody hit it on all cylinders. Lots of things up in the air. This weekend, Formula One starts with its new TV rights on Apple and a re-upped deal as of this morning with P15 for the F1 channel. We've got lots of things going on with the possibility of the NFL rebidding any moment now, it feels like. That $111 billion 11-year deal into even more money because they weren't getting paid as much as the NBA made on a per game basis, and they're a lot more valuable. No knock on Adam Silver, who's done an amazing job. So let's start out, if we might. Patrick, what's the biggest thing on your plate as you look across the sports rights stuff? What's the biggest thing hanging out there? Is that the NFL or what?
Well, I think from sports right perspective, the NFL, which I've been talking about for a while, the NFL and resetting their rights is going to take what was already a group of tier one sports properties that obeyed extreme power laws versus every other property when it came to media rights, which are the media rights are upfront payments that are contractual with escalators, right? When you have them,
Right.
operate and you can have a bad year, a good year, but checks still come in. Right. And that's why it's so important. And those are maybe 10%. The United States has more tier one sports than any other country in the world. Typically there's 3 in most international companies, but the United States has like 6 or 7, depending how you want to define it. But those folks are different than everybody else. They're going to become even more different. But the NFL, the top 2 or 3 properties are going to go into their own bucket as well. So what I think is increasingly obvious is that the pool of rights is going to go up, but the percentage of the top 3 to 4 folks is going to go up as well, which means some of these sports that we call tier one, their rights increase rate of growth, of which a lot of future planning is dependent upon, is in question. They may get it, they may not. And the
So they're
reason
like
why,
tier 1.5 instead of tier one. We're going to have some separation in what had been a half a dozen sports.
yeah, and it's always been the NFL and everybody else for a while. The NFL
Right.
has suck a lot of energy out of the room here because it's going to be even more the NFL, right? They're going to be they're already their own universe. They're going to a different galaxy and they'll be their own thing. And the NBA has already been fortunate enough to do their negotiation, but it's going to be questionable about how much is available for everybody to allocate. And the big problem is that you have a secular declining pay TV bundle that used to pay for 100% of this. It's still paying for 90% of it, even though it's in secular decline. You've had
It's
some
more
not,
valuable than ever, right? I mean, to
it
some
really is.
extent, these guys, and this is particularly on point with Paramount, it has to protect its NFL rights. It has to spend whatever it can, right? And yet it's got Netflix sitting there going, we just did not spend $50 billion in debt to buy Warner Brothers. So maybe we'll throw in a nice bid here and get more than Christmas Day.
Exactly. And you still have to have the pay TV bundle to pay for any of these rights increases. The NFL is going to need it because the streamers, despite all the predictions, they just haven't jumped in at scale together. You see more toe tipping, you see more strategic planning. Amazon now has a 360-day a year strategy, but they've been happy to take the pieces that nobody wanted anymore, right? So the pay TV folks, right, or the folks that depend upon some of the pay TV stuff, who are also in many cases streamer, they're going to spend more money on the NFL to keep it. And that's going to give the NFL their reach, but they're also going to have to choose probably to not spend on as many things. And if you look at ESPN and Fox, you already see that they've been letting stuff go for years. I mean, the reason why Formula One's over on Apple is because ESPN did the math and said, look, NFL is worth a lot more. College football is worth a lot more to us than the Formula One, even though it's a fit here. Goodbye. Top ranked boxing, even the UFC. And UFC found a really nice portfolio fit over at Paramount for
Which,
$1 billion.
did you think they overpaid at 7 points?
I think it's hard to say in it that they did because they had such a portfolio need. We haven't seen the CBS. It's gonna work across their different platforms. They'll be able to monetize it, and twist the dials, but it's expensive, right? But you kind of have to have it because sports is the one thing that still draws mass audiences. And with all the methodological changes to viewing in the United States, it almost all accrues to big live sporting events. One of the reasons, alpine skiing in the United States was not 86% more popular than it was 4 years ago. That was some of it
I've
was
actually heard it's
some
gone
of that was
downhill.
all the methodological viewing.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I've heard it's gone downhill, but that's just an easy joke.
So the NFL is going to cost. So unless a streamer steps up, and then none of these streamers on a cost accounting basis make money on any of this media, it has to serve as marketing for something else. Unless one of them comes in and says, "Give me all of Sunday NFL," or "Give me all of the MLB postseason," which they have not done yet, though they could do it anytime they wanted. You're going to have this problem on. You're going to have an expanded rights pool because it's going to grow, but there's going to be less to go around for everybody except the top 3 or 4 properties. And so somebody's
Okay.
going jammed. And they're going to get jammed not in going backwards, but they were planning on 100% increase. They're going to get 30 or 40, David. That's what I think the reality is for the next couple of years.
Interesting. So, Lucas, Patrick very helpfully mentioned the magic word, marketing, how these things fit into these portfolios. The NFL will have its way. More money will be spent, less money will be spent on other things because this is the one that opens doors. But I think what you guys do at Looper is make sure these guys are spending the money to get people to find them in the right ways. It sounds like we're going to have even more fracturing, right, Patrick?
I think so. And I think to the point of trying to find content, it's already like, you'll remember everybody hated the pay TV bundle, that APG, but it turned out to be a great content discovery guide. And now it's like you've hit all this content with a sledgehammer to include all the entertainment content, which is fractionalized even more. And sports is now going along with that to keep the growth going because you have to be additive, not zero sum with partners, right? The NBA now has like what, 5, 6 partners. They had 2 before. And so or maybe 4, whatever it is, right? It's more, right? And the NFL is going to add more. So finding content and getting ROI around it, right? In particular with your marketing is more challenging than ever. And it's something that, I was talking about, I think, David, 6, 7 years ago. And now you see it everywhere, right? Like, I'm so tired of
Right.
asking for a partner. I can't find all the games. I don't know. So if it's just hard for the consumer to find, you can imagine how hard it is to get marketing ROI back on this.
Yeah,
Right. So,
particular in the US.
Lucas, let's talk a little bit about this then. So, who's doing it right? But what counts as doing it right now? If it's going to be, if that game, I mean, I can't even imagine how you find like your favorite college basketball team because there's 300 teams and 4,000 games a day. Apparently, even the degenerate gamblers have a hard time finding a game to bet on finding that game. I mean, how do you do it? How do you do it right?
Well, firstly, if you're a consumer, you need like a big, bunch of cash behind you so that you can pay for all the subscriptions that you need to access your team's games. I mean, it's pretty insane, right? So something's got to change on that front. From our perspective is looking at how does a consumer see or find content. And what we're doing is we're auditing all of the different OEMs, all the MVPDs, the games consoles, like all the mobile devices. And we're trying to understand how does the actual broadcaster or streamer get that content in front of the audience. And as Patrick mentioned, the EPG used to be brilliant, right? I could scroll through and I could see a game. Great. I could go watch it. Now I've got a bunch of apps and I've got a bunch of content that's promoting those apps. And as you also mentioned, sports is a massive driver of that. That is one of the things that's going to keep me sticky and keep me subscribing and keep me coming back week after week. But I've got to be able to find the program that's specific to me. And that program, if I'm in sports, I don't really care about anyone else besides my team, right? I mean, some of us are a bit more generous, but I haven't got the time, right? I want to watch my team. I
Most
want to
people
watch
are
it
not
now.
watching. If you're in Los Angeles, most people, unless they're from there, are not watching that. I don't know, Florida Marlins, Cleveland Indians baseball game on Tuesday night, right? Unless they just
That's right.
stumble across it. I mean, they're not seeking that stuff out. These are tend to be very locally focused in a lot of ways, except the NFL.
Yeah, really,
Except the NFL.
really, really specific. I've got to be promoted that particular game at the right time and on the right device, right? Which device do I have at home? Have I got a Samsung? Have I got an LG? Am I watching it through Xfinity or Cox or Charter? So I want to make sure that those signposts are there leading up to the event. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, watch it here on Prime Video, watch it here on
So this is
Fox
a
One, like
platform
whatever.
question, right? I mean, it sounds like a
That's a
platform
platform.
question beyond 50 different apps and 30 different outlets that might be carrying something, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
the real issue.
And look, from a consumer's perspective, I do care about which app it's on because I'm hoping I've already paid for it, right? Because it's a pain in the ass if I haven't paid for it and I've got to go and subscribe to it, right? Because we all know that feeling. That kind of sucks. It's a little wince, right? But ideally, I've already subscribed to that service. And so then it's about making sure that actual promotion is there leading up to the event and it's got the right signpost. Like right now in the US, per platform, we find there's 1.3 errors for every single game that's being streamed or broadcast. Like, I mean, it's mind blowing how you can have that many errors. So on
Because
a
it does add up pretty quick, right? I mean,
That's
that's
not
the
really
issue,
quick.
right?
There's,
Yeah.
if you're streaming on 30 different platforms, OEMs in the US, then you've got nearly 40 different errors. And those errors could be watch it at 2 o'clock and in fact it's on at 1, like really big.
Yeah.
Or the promotion doesn't go live until after the actual matches started. We're seeing things like that. Well, that means as a consumer, I can't find it. And that's it. That's really bad, right?
Right, right.
I'm not streaming it, then I got zero audience coming on this device. Well, that's a major problem.
Yeah. So, Patrick, one solution here, ESPN, as you say, shedding a big chunk of their baseball deal, getting rid of the UFC, getting rid of Outbreak Boxing, letting Formula One go. Apple picked that one up. Nice promotion for the F1 movie. But, and MLS, they've now made free for any Apple TV subscriber, which I think is interesting. I watched some of those games over the weekend, and it was fun not to spend another $80 to get the pass.
Yeah.
But NFL did a deal with ESPN, right, for the NFL Network and NFL Media. They basically said, "You take it over and run it." I mean, if you are a hardcore NFL person, and all the evidence suggests there's quite a lot, why would they kind of let that go? I don't quite understand that because it would feel like if you really wanted to, you would want at this point. I guess they just need that sweet, sweet, sweet TV rights money, so they're going to parcel out.
So it's a great question, David. Look, the truth of the matter is the league's been trying to kind of get NFL Network off their books since about 2009, 2010. When I was at Fox, the second Thursday Night Football rights, where they ended up again having to put it to the networks because they didn't want it, we did take a serious run out of it because we wanted to have NFL Network's non-union workspace in Culver City, which they're now at SoFi. Because turning on the studio 2A in the lot in LA was a $250,000 day because you have to bring everybody in for the day. And so, we were doing news for FS1. Now we stopped doing news for FS1. It changed. We didn't get it, but they've been trying to find a way to kind of get out of operating. David, I mean, the league realizes they're not operators. In addition, pay TV is in secular decline. It may stabilize. It's becoming more sports centric. It's very important. It's super important to paying all the bills. But at the end of the day, they wanted to make it somebody else's day-to-day problem. For ESPN, they need to rebundle and consolidate. And this is part of it because now they still have pay TV channels. It's another thing to negotiate alongside. This is live content people are interested in, and it plays well with their direct to consumer strategy, which is complementary to pay TV, not supposed to be a replacement for it.
Right,
And
right.
that was it, right? The league wanted to get out of operating and have all the benefits of ownership still technically, but get out of that. And they've been trying to figure out a way out of that for a while, and now was the moment. So that's really what I think it was, David.
I would be remiss if I didn't note as a Missouri Tiger the unfortunate logo on your chest, Patrick. But we all have
My daughter
burdens
goes
to
to
bear.
Kansas. My daughter goes to Kansas, so
Well, you went wrong somewhere, sir, but it's okay. I'm sure she's a lovely young lady.
she looked at Missouri. She just fell in love with Kansas. No hate towards Mizzou.
Yeah, her and the James gang, the Quantrells technically. But
She has her
listen,
own. I got it. I
Yeah,
got
she's
it. It'll
definitely gonna go her own way. I'll show dad. I'll go to Kansas. But that being said, Lucas, give me some sense. Both Fox One, which is heavily sports from Fox, and ESPN, the app, though they don't really call it that, the flagship, they do call it kind of that, are there to make up for the fact that both ESPN and Fox have been legacy platforms, cable platforms heavily, heavily, heavily. Now there's a broadcast operation for Fox, but really it's Fox News, sports, and business, I guess, is a big part of Fox One. Both of those, and you're even seeing these kind of bundled, I think, to try to pick up the hardcore, most of the sports. So, how does that strategy work from what you guys see? How effective has that been? We're 6 months in now because it was like August 22nd, I think they both launched. Any sense of how that's unfolding in terms of getting people in the door, getting some actual uptick for all the things that they have to offer, and how
Yeah.
well they're merchandising it?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen numbers on ESPN, but I was hearing that Fox One was really killing it on Prime Video, on PVC channels or Prime Video subscriptions, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, acquisition channel.
Right.
Interestingly, it's really big for acquisitions and less so for retention. So
Because
it's a
people churn through, is that what happens?
well,
Basically, they'll
yeah.
they'll subscribe and unsubscribe to different.
it's the beautiful thing of Amazon, isn't it? Is it's consumer centric and it makes it easy for you to subscribe and unsubscribe.
Right.
And unlike in Europe and other countries, right? In the US, they make it really difficult. Like the user journey kind of sucks for unsubscribing. They want to make it really difficult. Whereas Prime Video, they're consumer centric. We want to help you sign up easily. And if you want to cancel, you can do the same, which, I think is how it should be, right? I mean, you got to stand on your own 2 feet, right? You've either got the programming and the draw for the customer and you keep them engaged because you're buying the right programming and you're promoting the right programming at the right time and you're making discovery within your app really good. That's the bread and butter of the industry. And making it really difficult for people to churn out. I get the motivation, but I don't think it's the right way to go.
Yeah. I will note in passing that Fox Nation, which started out as sort of this companion app to Fox News before the pandemic, was really kind of whack. It was like originally it was like Fox News hosts doing cooking shows or book shows or whatever, or travel or history or whatever. And they've branched out. Martin Scorsese is doing The Saints because good Catholic boy, a good Italian Catholic boy, he's doing The Saints as a series for them. So they've branched out a bit. They finally joined Amazon Prime Video. And so they have never released viewership on that. I think they finally will have something to talk about as their Fox is kind of moving into this post-linear world in an aggressive way. The NBA deal, they had 75 billion, I think, and they kicked Warner Brothers to the curb. So it did get some lovely parting gifts after filing suit. NBC and Peacock, ESPN with the bell cow, and then Prime, Amazon Prime. Each gets a couple of nights. And it's interesting in terms of a marketing standpoint or a merchandise standpoint because I see how they do the unified the week's calendar. It's us tonight, those guys tomorrow night, those guys the next night, and all across all three of those providers. That feels like something leagues should do if they have more than one partner. It feels like a big deal, though. Is it, Patrick? What do you think?
Well,
I mean, that cross promotion across now.
yeah, the NFL for years has forced that upon its
Yeah.
partners. And I will tell
Okay.
you when they first did it, it was kind of like, oh, we don't really do that. Um,
Right.
a lot of the can be attributed to, again, methodological changes, but just the moving of inventory off of pay TV over to broadcast television, which most viewing to broadcast, David, as you know, comes from pay TV bundles, but it's positioning and circulation and all the content that's on broadcast TV, which, kind of migrated off to pay TV and now it's come back on because of broadcast retransmission fees. That is where the viewing's at. That's where the viewers start still. And so that has given a lot of lift. Broadcast is relevant, even though it's still really, really about pay TV still, right? You do get incremental homes, but between the economics of retrans and the circulation, It's about the pay TV bundle still. So, there's a lot of issues with where's my team at? What am I watching this week? Yes, everybody promoting to each other is a good thing. But at the same time, even the major sports, except maybe the NFL, which lazily enables you to come up on a Sunday still and find the two broadcast television networks on Sunday day, it's harder than ever to find things. And that's why I believe the Amazon games, with their comps, are down some. The NBC's got the broadcast lift, right? That compensates for viewer confusion, but everything else probably has viewer confusion in it. And being able to find your content when you want to do it, not everybody watches every game throughout a season, right? I know that we were shocked to find out when we started doing analysis on it that people watch like 2 NFL games a week. They just watch longer duration than everything. In general market, the NFL's so general market. But the NBA, you probably got fans watching 1 or 2 games a week. So where are they watching? How are they watching them? What are they deciding to do? Because you have more partners, in particular partners like Amazon and Peacock, you need them to download the app. You want to get everybody, all your partners involved. How do you do that? We got to reach the folks, and then you got to track it, and it's difficult. It's harder than ever to figure that part out.
And this is obviously what Lucas makes a lot of money doing, saying, you guys are knuckleheads. You're not doing this very well. Who's doing it well?
Well, I got to say, so look, picking up on NBA and Amazon, just to take this out for a little bit of your international audience, I think the way that NBA's partnered with Amazon internationally is genius. You've got you've got a tech provider, and they're very good at promoting it, right? I mean, Amazon has become a
But
sports.
they're also in a couple, 190 countries like Netflix, or 100 and 200, so in that
That's right.
ballpark, right?
That's right. That's right. And so you're partnering with a company that's now very sport forward. Like you look at the UI of Prime Video, they're really good at promoting the show. There's sports events that are coming up and that are on. They do a really good job within their app. They've obviously got all the other channels business as well. But internationally, the NBA can have a local broadcast partner in the market, but then the digital has defaulted effectively to Amazon. And that's a really smart strategy because rather than have your own direct to consumer, right, which I know that certain leagues are going for, you've got a drilled technology company in market with customers and eyeballs already. That's the really hard, expensive bit.
Yeah, getting them in the door in the first place in Zimbabwe or
That's right. I mean,
Slovenia.
good luck,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
what kind of marketing budget are you going to need for your D2C? And it's the reason that so many, I mean, look at the channel partners on Amazon. Why do they go through Amazon? Why do they give them a cut of the revenue? Because they've got the audience,
That's right.
right? It's the old, app store tax. Why did you pay Apple 30?
It's where the money is. It's the
Right?
Willie Sutton approach, right?
Go where the
Uh,
eyeballs are. Put your product
yeah.
in front of the eyeballs. So I
I mean,
think that's
Lucas. Lucas. When Apple TV threw up its hands and put itself into the channel store, they finally started getting adoption of the platform
that's it.
because they have the circulation. They're like
That's it.
you've got the customers running through there. You only need to grab 1 to 2% of them.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the traditional, junior level marketing course kind of thing you like to look at, right? I
Well,
mean,
that's it. This
so,
is
but it's like that's there. The foot traffic in the store is
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
absolutely like in retail, right? If you come out, physical retail business, they call it, omni-channel, marketing, omni-channel sales, right? You can come and pick it up from the store. You can come into the store. You can get it delivered online, right? It takes a really holistic strategy nowadays. And that's
Mhm.
why I like what the NBA have done. I think, they've got the local option for perhaps a free to air on a broadcast or maybe pay TV. Then you've got your digital partner in Amazon. And then, they can always fall back and say, "Oh, we could do direct to consumer if they need a little extra leverage." I just don't see it, right? I don't think that's the way to do it.
The economics are bad to do to run your own shop is NBA.TV does not really
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, what do we think of NFL Game Pass?
Patrick, I have no thoughts.
I,
I'm
I
thoughtless, as often is the case.
Well, I was gonna. So, look, I think the dream. I think there's this idea that somehow you can always cut out the middleman. I mean, I struggle a lot to find any industry that doesn't have middlemen. It's kind of like when we're beating up bundling in media, and then I'm like, well, you bundle at McDonald's, you bundle with Flow. It's a universal business concept, except for media, where we're going to cut out the middleman. right? So the DTC apps are, we got the, data and all this other stuff. I'm a researcher. That's how I started. I became more than that, but data, I like data. Data's great, and we get more and better data all the time, but it's not, you can't run everything. This idea that you can't have partners. For example, Apple learned, they're Apple. If Apple learns that the best way to get Apple TV adopted is to stick it in the channel store, I mean, that's what then what are you going to do if you're the you're the Minnesota Twins and you want to own all your data with a DTC product, and then you find out you get 20,000 subs.
Right. If you're
You're not
lucky. If you're having an off year, man, I mean, that's gonna be ugly.
I mean,
Oh,
bundling, right?
You get bugger all
Bundling,
data.
yeah, exactly. And there are arguments about how they share the data and stuff like that. They worry about that, but I think at the end of the day, if you're a league or if you're even a distributor, you have to be worried about what your adoption is, what your engagement levels are, how people sign up. They have to be able to find you, and they have to be able to convert to get to you. And that's where that bundling idea comes from. Hey, we're Apple TV, but we're bundled up in distribution channels. You have to have, there's specialists for a reason. You're the middleman. I kind of
Absolutely.
attack that a lot these days, because that whole, we're going to get rid of the middleman and get all the economics to us. It doesn't doesn't recognize the elegance and sophistication of a decentralized market system.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they do that, that they finally kinda went, "Oh, well, we do a little bundling ourselves as a provider of the App Store and a billion
That's right.
phones and the Apple TV, the puck, Apple TV, the platform, and Apple TV, the app." Not confusing at all. Uh, but, and they're trying to do some of what you talk about in terms of like showing programming across on their platform of all the things going on. You'll see several things that they'll suggest based on the fact, oh, it's David logging in, not David's spouse. You'll see a different mix of those things, but that doesn't feel fully formed. Also, Apple TV, the puck, has a smaller reach than everything else it seems like Apple does, certainly. So they have to go ahead and play with friends, which they're not necessarily comfortable doing.
Yeah, that's not their normal modus operandi, that's for sure. And that
Well,
must
when
have,
you're a $4 trillion company,
yeah.
normally people are coming to play with you, not the
Yeah.
other way around.
And
It's
they've
like,
got the
please, can I have some distribution?
Yeah, and they've got
Um,
the amazing ecosystem, and they've got some really good products, right? In terms of their media products that they're making. I think one of the things on the sports specifically is there hasn't been a way for the ecosystem to really audit and value all of the promotions that they want to get, right? So if I was NBA, I didn't have an opportunity to say to even Amazon, I bet they haven't done this in their current Amazon deal. I want to make sure I get a certain amount of media placement value within all of the promotions you're going to do locally in each of those markets, whether it's with an MVPD, whether it's with a connected TV OEM, an app store. And then the Amazons of the world haven't had an opportunity to be able to then say to the Samsungs and LGs and even the Apple TVs, I want a certain value of promotion guaranteed, right? They could in some cases do paid promotions, but not always. But it's a
but
holistic.
that feels like a really important step, but one that people haven't thought about. I mean, Patrick, have they? Because I mean, I think Lucas is right on. You should be saying, okay, not only are we going to get you as a partner and you're going to pay us a boatload of money, but we need this kind of promotion on the virtual end caps of all your places that you are. And and
Uh,
and that feels like a step beyond the way people think.
yeah. One of the reasons why we didn't have a pirouette to streaming was because these kind of systems weren't built yet.
Yeah, that's a good
And
reason.
and now they're being built. So thinking about how part of your deal is how are we marketing it and what's the value behind that, and how do we measure it, and get all of those important touch points we take for granted in the old, I call established system. Legacy and old is not the right word because it's still relevant. It's established system versus new system, and the new system is still developing. And what we're discovering all the time is it's not just in marketing. There's lots of things that the established system did really well that the new system actually just needs to throw up its hands and quit trying to reinvent things. Netflix figured that out with their content development really fast. You don't hear them talk about the algorithm that much anymore in content development. Why? It wasn't a big game changer. They had the same success and failure rate in content development as a traditional studio. And that's because human beings are very complicated. And you try to figure them out and they do something else that's unpredictable.
Something catches fire and it's kind of hard to guess. It's like saying
It's
make
hard to
this
know,
viral
right?
post, right? Yeah.
Exactly, right? So I do think the next one of the next steps in the evolution is how do you market things properly? Now, in the context of all of this, we're having, finally consolidation and rebundling, which makes some of this play nicer together, right? I mean, ESPN, ESPN is a bundle of content, right? And being able to take that bundle and marry it up with other bundles makes content discovery within those systems easier, right? But we're still far away from that. And in the short run, we need to come up with some systems that enable us to market better and also see how well we did on the back end, which is not a new idea in content marketing, right? We're always looking for ROI, but the truth of the matter is it's hard. It's hard to know what exactly you're going after and how what you define as success. And I think that's the next step. Defining success, maybe it's the army officer in me, but what does success look like?
Yeah,
Right. Right.
absolutely.
And that's where you call people like Lucas up and say, "How we doing?" Because you really need to have a feedback loop saying, "Yeah, you kind of botched it over here. You're going to do 30 days of KP
No, you
in
you
the
really do
kitchen."
fly blind. David, you really
Yeah.
are flying blind because some of it, "Oh, we're on channels or we've done some
We did
things
our part, right? I mean, that kind of
and,
thing.
now we're gonna get some subs."
Yeah.
Right? Let's go.
Let's see how that well, actually, let's not see how that works out. Just pay us the money. I mean, part of this is if you get paid a few $1 billion and you're like niggling about this thing or that, maybe you're just, I don't think you talk about building systems. I wonder if they haven't built the mental systems within the leagues to think about this either in that way because you just put it on TNT for 30 years, right? And people will go there and they'll watch Kenny and Shaq and Ernie and Sir Charles, and it'll all be perfect. And we don't have to think about this. And then all of a sudden, stuff gets
Yeah.
blown up,
Yeah. That
right?
EPG is no longer there, and it's all about fighting for this zero sum game, which is this tiny UI now, relatively speaking, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's in some ways it I mean, it's beautiful, but it's clunky from a discovery point of view, and that's
Beautifully clunky. I wish they would call me that. But
yeah. Well, yeah,
anyway,
you just yeah. But I mean,
I'll
this
take
is
it.
the thing, right? And when we talk about the value, right, what we're really talking about is audience. We're talking about impressions. If I'm going to pay you $1 million, I want to get a certain number of impressions for that. I want to pay you a $10 CPM, and want to end up with 100 million impressions for giving you all that money. That's really what we're trying to get down to. Is then I can put it into my model, and I can see this is how many impressions we tend to convert into new subscribers. And this is the level of impressions we need, eyeballs to see our product to keep engagement with our existing subscribers. I mean, this is the game, right? It's new and it's engagement and churn reduction. And that's what sports and live events really delivers. And I think it's worth us looking at that, right? Because Peacock, right? They got what, 1 million new subs from the Super
Yeah,
Bowls?
nearly 1 million subs signed up for after the Super Bowl.
And how much do you reckon, Patrick, they paid for the Super Bowl? I know they didn't pay specifically for it, but how much is the Super Bowl worth financially on its own if you were to buy it?
Yeah. What's that increment? It's always been because it's not really broken out. Everybody, you're paying to have every 4 year turn, basically, right?
Yeah, so you pay for the Super Bowl on your books the year you air it, right? I wanna say $250 is the value.
Okay, 250 million. Okay.
Maybe it's more, but I don't know off the top of my head where it is at today, but, that's a big there's a cost amortization in there, and maybe I'm confusing the revenue you get, but you also get a gigantic revenue bump
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
land
you get a pretty
because
good
the ad
revenue
sales
bump.
force it. You've already
Yeah.
monetized the revenue bump with pay TV distributors in your multi-year contract with them, so that's already in there. It's all gravy and plan because now you're gonna get this giant advertising bump because there's nothing like it, right?
Yeah.
So it's somewhere 100. I'm trying. Maybe I'm thinking about the revenue derived from it on the impact. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's more than $100 million on.
Yeah. I mean, so your CAC, right? Your customer acquisition cost on that is about, well, if it's 100 mil, it's $100, and if it's 250 mil, it's $250 per new subscriber. Now, is that a good deal?
How long do
And
they
that,
stick around, right? You get that
that's the real
million
question. That's it. That's the
signups.
question
Yeah.
the CMOs need to be putting into their models is, oh yeah, well actually then I'm I'm then charging, let's say $10 a month. Then that if it's $100, then that's a $10 payback. We tend to hang on average to our customers for 18 months. Great, good deal. Keep doing it. Right.
Right.
But if the math
Yeah,
works out differently, and this is how these events feed into these these models, right? And that these CMOs are looking at, and therefore they say to the finance team, "This is how much we can bid for this."
it's interesting because sports are largely built on legacy broadcasting cable with breaks for advertising. The subscription VODs are not really great at that. And they don't necessarily have, you talk about building systems. We're still building systems. Like I watch Peacock and there's a lot of the broadcast will resume in a few minutes. But I'm like just hearing music and there's a static image. It's like, well, this is great. I mean, but that happens. It's not just them, but they're the ones who had the legendary February of Winter Olympics, which had record numbers, the Super Bowl, which had number two all time numbers, and the NBA game, which had the best numbers in 15 years. Pretty good month for them. Legendary indeed. It's now March 2nd. Sorry, guys. What have you done for us lately? I mean, how do they make money on that ad component in sports that's built in that's not taken advantage of now? Is this just a matter of the advertisers catching up, Patrick?
So I
What do you
think
think?
Well, so I do think some of it is the advertisers, but if you look, David, to your point about systems, when you watch a presentation, a streaming only presentation for sports, you notice things, as somebody who spent a lot of time in the executive control room, I'm not a producer. I do have production credits. I feel like I'm close to being a producer. I've been with real Hall of Fame producers. I see what they do. But here's one of the things when I was responsible for all the live events at Fox from a execution kind of perspective, right? From a programming interact with each other perspective across technically 10 television networks, is that how you get in and out of break is an art form. You don't want to make the audience want to turn the channel. You're doing this gently. The commercials don't have adjacencies. There's all sorts of things that the presentation on established television makes it feel smooth. When you go over to, say, I was watching the NBA on Amazon, they basically like we're just going to break, and it's like bang, and you might see the same ad again, then you might not see an ad, right? And that's Amazon with all their ability to place ads. And that's because it doesn't, they can't make everything work quite yet, right? And second of all, the advertisers are getting enough value in other parts of it because some of these digital assets don't have the same value still as the established platforms because of the size of the audience on established platforms that's concentrated there at the time of the event, the measurement system, right, with Nielsen, and the operating environment. So it does need to evolve more. And I do think the viewing experience for streaming, when it comes to commercial insertion, which is an important part for the streamers, right? Streamers were never going to sell you ads. Now they do want to sell you ads. And if you're Amazon, they want to sell you, but they're in their own ad network, right? And that polish that comes with it, and how you treat that, there's some things lost. I will tell you that I advise some content companies when that own television networks still, and when they ask for a show to be developed that's going to air on the television network first, they're having problems with producers knowing how to produce for traditional television and the break, and they have
Interesting.
to coach them. It's so yeah. So I think that system has to be built out too. I do think it's super fixable, and it will be fixed, but it's not there yet.
So it sounds like we got a lot of work to do, which means that Lucas is going to have lots of clients saying, How do we get better? So that's the good news. And Patrick, they'll be asking you, how do we get better? Because there's a lot of room for improvement. And these really, it's really easy to forget. You know, most of these guys have been operating less than 5 years, and they were coming out of a globe girdling, life changing pandemic as they were doing it. So piece of cake. And now we're busy consolidating and tearing things up. So it's a mess, and it's a full employment act for both of you guys. I want to thank you both for your wisdom and perspective and knowledge. And I feel very lucky to be able to participate in a conversation with you and not look totally hopeless. This is David Bloom with Next TMT and Lucas Bertrand, CEO and founder of Looper Insights, and international advisor of fortune and investor Patrick Crakes. Thank you guys, and we will overlook your daughter's youthful indiscretion
Thank you.
in her educational pursuits. I hope it works out for her. Thank you guys so much. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.